Hello, everyone. Andy Goldberg here. This is the Founders Chair podcast. Welcome back. Today, I'm really happy to introduce Ian Hockey from Big Bobble Hats. Ian, welcome to the podcast.
Thanks, Andy. It's great to be here.
My pleasure to welcome you onto the show today. Why don't you first just tell us a little bit about yourself personally? Where are you from? Where you live? What your hobbies are?
Cool, no problem. Excuse me. So my name's Ian. I was born in Oxford in England, and I grew up in the south of England. And when I was mid-20s, I moved here to Scotland, where I live just south of Glasgow now. I am very much into sport and fitness, keeping fit and all that jazz. So I've done a lot of triathlons in my life, and I'm mainly into cycling now. That's what I do a lot of. I'm a big fan of cycling. That's my sport. I love following cycling, watching cycling, going cycling, mountain biking, road biking, gravel biking, all that stuff. I love playing golf. I started playing golf again recently. I'm very much enjoying that at the moment. What else do I like doing? A lot of people say on their CV that they don't really watch TV. I do. I love watching TV. I love watching Netflix and box sets and all that jazz. So yeah, which we do a lot of here in Scotland because the weather's generally pretty crap. So
It sounds like you've earned the right to sit on the sofa now and again and watch a
yeah,
Netflix.
now and again, yeah, I feel don't feel guilty if I've been out on the bike for 6 hours or whatever. So it's fine.
Nobody's going to give you a hard time for watching Netflix or binge watching something when you also run triathlons.
Yeah, yeah, that's true. That's true. Yeah.
And what brought you? This is the question I get asked a lot when they hear my accent. What brought you to Scotland?
Love. Yeah. So yeah, so I met my wife, my now wife, what, 20 years ago nearly. And yeah, she lived up here and I lived down south. We both worked for the same company. So after sort of connecting, I left that company, moved to Scotland and been here ever since. Yeah.
So tell us before we get into your company and what you actually do.
Hmm.
Just tell us a little bit about the story of how the business came about in the first place, and also at what point did you have confidence that you could run your own business?
Okay, cool. So the business came about, I wouldn't say by accident, but it wasn't like we sat down and thought, let's start a bobble hat business. That was never the intention. So, I worked in the oil industry about, well, nearly 20 years ago now, and I worked away from home in Africa, in Chad and Cameroon, and I was doing a month on, month off rotation. And while I was away, Tamara, my wife, was a bit bored, and a friend of hers said, "Do you want to come to this knitting class?" And so she thought, all right, okay, I'll go to a knitting class, something to do. So she went along, and the first thing they taught her how to make was a woolly hat, and with a big pom pom on the top of it. And I came back from Africa, and she said, "Oh, Ian, I've made you a hat. We're going on a ski trip. Here's a hat for you. Um, but the bobble's too big. I need to make it smaller so it's normal." And I said, "No, I love it. Nice and big and in your face. It's great." Um, so she made herself one, and Mackenzie one, her son, my stepson, and we all went skiing wearing these hats. And everybody said to us, "Where did you get the hat from? It's really cool. It's different. It's out there." And we thought, well, maybe there's something in this. So she then taught me how to knit them because I loved it. So I would go back out to Africa on my next trip, suitcase full of wool, and I'd sit there every night. No, this is no word of a lie. I was in a rocking chair with a tartan rug over my legs because it was an air-conditioned building, and I was knitting all these different funky styles of hat, colors of hat. And I'd come back at the end of the month and I'd have, I don't know, 22, 23 different hats. It took us about 4 hours to make each hat, including making the bobble nice and big. And I'd come back and we'd compare notes. You'd made some, I'd made some. And that was in 2010. And yeah, come October that year, we decided, well, let's see if we can sell a few of them on the internet and see if we can make some money to pay for our next skiing holiday. And sure enough, we thought, what is it? It's a hat with a big bobble on it. I always called it a bobble, so we called it Big Bobble Hats, and that was kind of how it all started. And that was yeah, what, 15 years ago now. So
Yeah.
yeah, we started up a website, and then it went from there really. And we're still working full time. I was, and as was Tamara, and it started as a sort of side business. And in our first year, we think we sold £5,000 worth of bobble hats, which we couldn't believe. And we handmade every single one, and my fingers were like red raw from knitting. So
Sure. I mean, there's a couple really good images that come out of that story. One is you coming back from Africa and your wife handing you a woolly hat. So here's a woolly hat. Welcome back from,
yeah, welcome home. Yeah.
and then you going back to you said oil and gas industry
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
in Africa. knitting hats in your knitting winter hats in your
Yeah,
spare time.
that was the strangest thing ever because every time I got to customs on the way out, they search me. Just a rule. So they search everybody, and they open my suitcase. It's just full of balls of wool. So yeah, I always got questioned, what are you doing? So it's an interesting one to explain every month.
So, so you saw there was a demand, there was interest, people, it was eye catching. It was, you were getting a
Hmm.
lot of attention. Um, it didn't come about, but the business didn't come about by design.
No,
So, had it ever crossed your mind that you're going to have to be a business owner and
no.
understand things like marketing and financials and things, or you just thought, we'll make and sell some hats?
Exactly that. We never thought, never crossed my mind, probably for the first maybe 5 years, really, that I was a business owner. It wasn't the thing. It wasn't like I've set up a business. It was just something I did on the side. It was like a hobby, if you know what I mean. And just over time, and then suddenly you've got, oh, I need a business bank account. And then it's sort of, hang on. And then you need, what was it? Oh, hang on, we're close to the VAT threshold. Oh, hang on. And then just all these little things sort of piled up before you know it. Oh, yeah, actually, I'm running a business here. And it wasn't really until 2015, I think, the business I was then working for, which was out of the oil and gas industry, I'd left that by then. Um, actually went into administration and I got made redundant. And I said, I was devastated. I was like, oh, what am I going to do? What am I going to do? And it was a friend of mine who said to me, Ian, what are you talking about? You've got a really good little business on the side. And then it was that moment, literally in that moment, I was in hysterics. I just lost my job, that I realized I've got a business. I've got an actual running, profitable, working business. What am I thinking? Why am I even thinking of looking for another job? What's wrong with me?
You had
So
an
it was a bit
opportunity
of
right
a
in front of you and didn't realize it.
I didn't really realize it. It's just been sitting there, like I said, as a sort of side hustle almost. But I always do things properly. And it had, with Google advertising and doing everything that you would do in a normal business, but just didn't really sort of twig that I was running a business and I was a business owner and an entrepreneur or whatever you want to call it. And
Yeah.
really sort of crossed my mind. I never really said it like that, but I don't think I ever did really.
Yeah, so really your business came about, I guess it's an unusual and amusing story, but it is a very typical start to a business. One is completely by chance, somebody invites your wife to a knitting class and you get made redundant.
Yeah.
So really the
Yeah.
two
5 years later, though.
fires that lit this, made this company come alive.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
Basically. Yeah. Yeah.
so I'm anxious to hear how the story ends. We'll find out in a minute. Tell us about the company now and what you actually do make and who you sell them to and how you go about your business.
Okay, so I mean, in its in its essence, it hasn't really changed a lot, to be honest. The main change is I don't knit hats anymore, which I haven't done for many, many years, thank God. Um, but no, it was so what we do now. So what's the question? Yeah, what we do now, right?
Tell
Yeah,
us about your company. Yeah,
yeah, yeah. So
that's what I
so
should
Big
have said.
Bobble Hats, Big Bobble Hats does what it says on the tin, right? We sell hats with a big bobble on it, like I've already said. Um, but I mean, what makes us slightly different is that it's just I mean, there's hundreds of hats you can buy out there in any shop, not any shop, but there's plenty of hats out there. But ours are we've created a brand, a brand of big bobble hats, and they're kind of unique in their appearance. You see somebody in the street wearing one, oh well, look, what's that? That hat looks different. Even yesterday, I was walking the dogs up in the park, and somebody said to me, "That's a nice statement hat you're wearing," and it was just what I always wear. And I've been wearing it for years, but he'd never seen it before. So they are kind of slightly different. Um, we've targeted our sort of model at sports fans and sports enthusiasts, and it's all about the people supporting sport, not necessarily the athletes. Like I said earlier, I'm a big cycling fan, so cycling was always a thing I was interested in and wanted to do more of and go to more events and stuff. So what we do now is we sponsor the UCI, which is the World Governing Body for Cycling, and they have a very distinctive rainbow stripes that the world champion of any cycling discipline would wear. And we do have a hat that matches those stripes. But it's not about the athlete, the cyclist wearing the hat. It's about the fans of the sport watching the sport wearing the hat and supporting their team or their cyclist or whatever. So so yeah, through the internet and through all these online events and in stores. We sell hats to customers all over the world. Um, it used to be mainly online, and now it's not. It's online in shops and at events and exhibitions. So yeah, so we went from little internet company in 2010 for we were that for about 4 or 5 years, and then we started doing all these outdoor events, selling a lot more and importing from China, where we get, oh, I've got a great factory in China that I've been to. It's fantastic, and they produce amazing quality hats for us. Um, and we distribute. We've got a warehouse now in Pennsylvania, one in the Netherlands, one in the UK, and hopefully very soon one in Australia, which will be
Wow.
interesting to see if that goes well.
Amazing.
Um, yeah, so that's how we sort of operate now, really. I don't know if that explains the question.
And I can vouch for you that the hats are unique and eye-catching because I'm sure I told you the story. We've known each other for a number of years now.
Mm.
I was wearing a big bobble hat, one of your hats, and somebody came up to me and said, "Oh, you've got a big bobble hat too." A friend of ours actually came up and said, "Oh, you've got a big bobble hat too. I've got one."
Yeah,
I don't remember where she got hers. I got mine from you.
yeah,
But there you
it's
got two
true, right?
people talking about their big bubble hats. Like
Yeah.
you can't pay for that kind of
No,
advertising.
you can't. No. And it's one of those things. If you're wearing one and somebody else is wearing one, you might not speak to each other, but it's always a little, all right.
Yeah,
You know, it's like one of those, if you know, you know, right? Everybody
it's
knows.
a membership, right? It's a
It's
membership.
kind of a thing. So that's just that brand that we've created, and we're really proud of our brand actually. And to the point where, it's any as in most businesses, somebody will copy you one day. Some people have copied us, they copied us all the time. But what we're quite pleased about is most people copies will look at their hat and go, "Oh, it's a big bobble hat." So, we've created that brand.
What would you say has been your biggest learning as a business owner?
Phew. So the biggest learning for me would be that you can't take your foot off the gas. As we were talking about briefly earlier on. If you do, I mean, you can, of course, and we're a very, very seasonal business, or so I thought we were anyway, because we're a winter hat, right? So our busiest period is like October through to February, March, and then the rest of the year, oh, take the year off. Doesn't work like that. With once you've grown a business to a certain size, if if you take your foot off the gas too much and take your eye off the ball, as an owner of a small business and you just rely on everybody else in your business, nobody cares about your business as much as you do. And I'm not saying I've got bad staff or had bad staff at all. I've had some absolutely fantastic staff over the years. But nobody, and I don't care who they are, will give us monkeys as much as you give the monkeys. So I've learned that you can't. I expect everyone to do and care as much as I do. Of course, nobody. It's not their business. It's my business. So they won't care, and that's nothing on them. That's just the way of human beings, right? So
Yeah.
yeah, taking my foot off the gas, I've struggled in over every now and again. We've had difficult patches in the business where it's like, oh, touch and go. We're going to make it. Are we going to see this through? COVID, difficult time. We came through that. The post-COVID was actually harder than COVID, to be honest. Um, so yeah, I've learnt this last couple of years that taking your eye off the ball and not focused, standing still, you're not going to get very far, and eventually you're going to
Yeah.
die. So
My coach said to me once that a business owner sets the ceiling of energy in a business. So wherever your energy level is, your enthusiasm, your passion, your team is going to be somewhere below you.
always just below you.
Yeah.
You're absolutely. That's
So
a
if you
great
want your
saying.
team to raise their energy and enthusiasm, you have to raise yours first, and they might come up,
Yeah,
but they'll still be below you.
so true. That's never a truer thing said. I can totally agree with him there.
So there's a top learning for people watching this is check your energy levels
Mm.
and
Yeah, that's right.
stop wondering why the rest of your team's energy levels are so low.
Yeah, it's so true. It's so true. Yeah, absolutely. I've learned that the hard way this last few years. So
What would you say has been your biggest challenge during the years? And was there somebody, maybe somebody outside of the business, a fellow business owner or a colleague who helped you get through it?
Okay, so biggest challenge probably in the last year, 18 months, it's been difficult. And this is what I mean post-COVID. So we had actually quite a good time during COVID. Everybody had more money and like, couldn't go anywhere on holiday to spend it and so forth. So we actually did okay during the time, but then as all retail found a huge drop off afterwards. So um, we struggled a bit, and then that was the time we were riding on the increase in revenue for a couple of years, and we opened up in the States, like I've told you before, uh, based on good information at the time, weren't expecting this huge drop in sales. So it really affected us. Um, and yeah, we had to make some really tough decisions just over a year ago and to lose some staff, and it was awful. So a couple of people spring to mind that helped me through that. One was my accountant. He's absolutely brilliant. He helped me a lot with it all. And a couple of guys, friends, really good friends of mine, I've been friends with all my life, who are both very senior, sort of director type people in their respective companies. Not their own business owners themselves, but just senior guys done very well for themselves, but good at business. And they just like have always been a good sort of sounding board for me because I think they've always been, if I'm honest, probably a bit envious in that I've got my own thing, but not envious in the stresses and strains financially, essentially, that you have when you run a small business. They're always getting their, guaranteed salary every month. So they've kind of lived a bit of their want and desire of running a business through me. So they've been really helpful to me over the years and giving me advice and sometimes being a bit more cutthroat. I'm a bit soft sometimes, I think, and they've been like, no, and you've got to be like this, and you've got to just make the decision and do it. So yeah, I think they've been quite good for me. Yeah.
So, what's the next big thing for you in your business? What's your next 1 to 3 years look like?
Okay, so I mentioned the States a minute ago. We have a business setup over there, the same Big Bobble Hats Incorporated, and it's just sitting there, not dormant. It's just ticking over, and I think the opportunity for America is massive. But as a lot of people say, America is a tough nut to crack, and it is in some ways. But it's just about effort levels and energy, I think, and money. So America is sort of 3 year plus plan, I think, 2 to 3 year plus. Right now, it's Europe, and we're looking at we've Brexit hit us hard, and that's another reason that we had a bit of a problem. We were growing nicely in Europe, and then suddenly, literally overnight, nothing. We couldn't do anything. People don't buy in Europe because of import costs, etc., etc. But we now seem to be we're fighting back, is what I'm saying. We're fighting back against Brexit, and we've got a nice couple of warehouses over there with stock and vehicles and everything. We're ready to go, and we've been doing a lot lately, and it's been going really, really well. The demand for the product over there is fantastic, and there's it's the size of the States. It's just as many people there. So once we're getting through, we already are through the red tape and the EU rules, etc. We're um, um, we're growing there nicely now, so that's a real big target for us over the next 1 to 2 years. Also, along with developing our range a little bit as well, so we're also doing much more what do you call it? Obvious products, I think you call it. I don't know. Like we're doing licensing, so we've just signed a deal with Guinness, which is very exciting for us. So we'll be producing Guinness hats, which we've been asked for a lot, and also one close to my heart is the Tour de France, which is one of the biggest sporting events in the world. And you might say that's in the summer. Why are you selling hats in the summer? But you believe how many people still buy them in the middle of summer. And Tour de France is a year-round brand, and they just sell stuff all year round. So it's two exciting things we're doing there. But you heard it here first. It's not public knowledge really. So,
But it's about to be.
but it's about to be now. Now it's going to be all over the world with this
Yep.
podcast.
Great. And finally, Ian, what advice would you have for business owners who are just starting out or who are considering going out on their own?
Um, Advice. I would say that never give up, right? I know that's probably a cliche, and also like I mentioned a minute ago about people copying us, and that's fine. People copy all the time. That's just the way of the world. But I've noticed over the years some people have copied us and it's not worked. And I know the reason why is because they haven't put in the effort. Like we were talking about earlier, if your energy levels are here and your team's here, etc., you've got to put in the effort. Like when I was working in a normal job before I did this full time. I was working Monday to Friday, 9 to 5, wherever I was in the country. I did a lot of traveling for that job. And then Saturday and Sunday, I'd be stood out in a muddy field in Scotland somewhere trying to sell my woolly hats to people. And then I finish on Sunday night, Monday morning, I'm back at work, driving all over the country and doing my job. And so for 7 days a week for quite a few years, I was working my socks off. So I would say nothing comes easily when you're running your own business. You got to work your tits off, and it'll work for you. And if you believe in something enough, and you've got a product that sells, just work hard, and it'll work.
Resilience, persistence.
You've got much better words than I have, Andy. Yeah, resilience and persistence.
Now, if
You
something's
sum it
not
up
working,
nicely.
you want to quit the thing that's not working and go do something else, but
Yeah,
never give up on your dreams, never give
never
up.
give up on your dream. Absolutely not. No,
Yeah,
absolutely
definitely.
not.
Do you want to put your contact details or the URL out there if people want to see your amazing hats and find out how they can get in touch with you?
Yeah, absolutely. If you type in Big Bobble Hats into Google or any search engine, we should be up there and in the top couple of choices, along with our competitors who are paying for that privilege. Or you can simply go to bigbobblehats.com and have a look at our huge range of products. Yeah. We do lots of stuff other than bobble hats as well now, including clothing and all sorts of stuff. So, yeah.
Well, it's been an absolute delight speaking with you today and catching up
You
with
too.
you, Ian Hockey from Big Bobble Hats. Thanks so much for being on the show.
And remember, the bigger the bobble, the better.
Love that slogan. I never forget it. Um, Ian, thanks again for being on the show. Thanks to all our listeners and our viewers. This has been the Founders Chair podcast. I've been Andy Goldberg talking to Ian Hockey, and we'll see you all again real soon. Have a great one. Bye bye.